Hello, and welcome to The Gentle Shift, Health by Choice, Not by Chance. I am Dr. Aaron Kiefer. It's good to be back making an episode after a short break. I took some time studying up on my anatomy and physiology so that I could deliver some good information for you. Today, we are talking about blood pressure, and more importantly, what to do to help control it naturally. It seems the medical system has made many feel like a helpless victim when it comes to managing high blood pressure, and that's just crazy. The number of people I talked to that were given new medication prescriptions, and when I ask what the prescribing physician discussed for the things that they can do to help themselves, I get this deer in the headlight look. I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like docs lean too heavy on meds as a crutch instead of having real conversation. Guiding someone on what they can do themselves at least provides them with some empowerment. We have the power to make and to keep ourselves well. And maybe those docs were once gung-ho only to feel defeated when people just chose a medication route. Let's be honest here, it is way easier to pop a pill than to change anything about our lifestyle, right? We all have the excuses. Not enough time, not enough energy, not willing to spend the money. But if we don't take care of ourselves now, then we will have less time and less energy. And those medical bills, once we eventually develop a chronic condition, yikes. I remember reading a quote once, a meme or a quote on a t-shirt or something. It said something like, "You say you will only run if something is chasing you. So put on your running shoes because heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, etc. are chasing you." Sort of silly, but yet so true. If you have been tuning into previous episodes, you should know by now I am not about playing the guilt or fear game. Those only work effectively for a really short period of time. It's about loving yourself enough to make lasting, sustainable changes. I want to inspire and empower you. So blood pressure. One statistic I found said that 48% of Americans have high blood pressure. 48%. 1 out of every 2. And here is a surprising statement, and I need you to hear this. Your blood pressure is appropriate for you in your current situation. It is appropriate. Right where it needs to be. That doesn't mean it is normal according to a textbook. And that doesn't mean that you will live a long and healthy life regardless of the numbers. But your body is constantly monitoring your blood pressure, and it makes the pressure exactly what it needs to be so that blood can properly reach every cell of the body at the proper rate. Your body has an innate ability to change blood pressure in order to make sure all the cells are getting the proper nutrition and oxygen and that waste are carried away, all at the speed it needs to occur for proper function. This is why we all have a baseline blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate, and those are unique to each person. Whether or not you meet the standards for what is acceptable is another discussion. So what exactly is blood pressure? As you learned in school, we have a circulatory system. It is made up of our heart, arteries, and veins. It is a closed loop system, so the heart is a pump that propels the blood through all the arteries. it has to pump blood through a lot of tubes. From my research, I found that the total length of our circulatory system, if you line every artery and vein and tiny capillary, would be 60,000 miles. That would circle the earth more than 4 times. Isn't that just insane? It's hard for me to even fathom it. 60,000 miles. All of that is crammed in our body. That is a lot of distance that needs to be covered, and that is why we need to have a strong heart. The body helps to move the blood through the system, not only from the heart pumping, but also from the elasticity of the arteries. So arteries, which are the vessels that carry blood away from the heart, are a bit stretchy. Since our heart is pumping, it doesn't create this constant state of blood flow. Those pumps eject a large amount of blood at a time. So if you can imagine, it causes the arteries to stretch when that extra volume of blood enters. And with anything elastic, it will stretch and then will return back to form. As the artery returns to form, it forces the blood to move along the length of the blood vessel. Without this, our heart would have to be massive in order to move all the blood through the entire length of network of vessels. The body was so intelligently designed. The number of times I sat in lectures in chiropractic school and just thought, wow, it is such an amazing design. So, blood pressure. As most of us are aware, we have 2 readings for blood pressure, systolic and diastolic. Systolic is a higher number with the recommended reading of roughly 120 millimeters of mercury of pressure. And diastolic is a lower number, which is recommended to be roughly 80 millimeters of mercury of pressure. So 120 over 80. We've all heard that before. If you have a fluid filling a space, it exerts a certain amount of outward pressure against the container. This pressure, when just sitting in the vessel, is a diastolic number for blood pressure. This is the bottom number, that lower number, ideally 80. When the heart pumps, that increases the pressure, causes that stretch in the vessel. If the vessel is getting stretched, it seems reasonable that would require more pressure than the fluid just simply sitting in that vessel. So that maximum pressure with the heart pumping is the top number of the blood pressure, which is called the systolic reading. And why does blood pressure change? Blood pressure is determined by 2 factors, the amount of blood your heart pumps and the resistance of blood vessels. If there's a restriction to the flow of blood, then the heart needs to pump harder to be able to get the blood through the entire network of blood vessels, and that would raise pressure. As an example, think about drinking through a straw. You put a straw in some water and it doesn't take much effort to quench your thirst. However, the smaller the diameter of the straw, the more difficult it is to drink, right? So a smaller straw would be equivalent to plaque buildup inside the arteries. Sadly, we have all known someone who has had a heart bypass surgery. And they will oftentimes talk about what percent of blockage the vessels may have, 60%, 80%, whatever it may be. Inside that artery, there's plaque buildup, which narrows the opening for blood to pass. This is given the term atherosclerosis. So that vessel, in our example, becomes a smaller straw. From our example, another variable that affects our ability to drink is the thickness of the fluid. Say, instead of drinking water, you decide you want a nice cold smoothie or milkshake. There is a reason when you order those drinks from your local vendors that they give you thicker, larger diameter straws. Put a thin straw in a milkshake and you are going to be working really hard to enjoy that tasty snack. So thickness of the blood matters too. And what causes thicker blood? The biggest cause is dehydration. Most of the population is dehydrated. If your urine isn't clear, then you are probably dehydrated. Also, causes for thicker blood are increased red blood cells, white blood cells, or proteins. Smoking, hormonal changes, and hormonal medication can also cause thicker blood. Our blood pressure increases when we have smaller openings in the blood vessels, like we discussed with the straw concept and how plaque buildup makes the heart work harder. This can also be caused when our arteries become less elastic, which is called arterial sclerosis. If the arteries aren't helping to move the blood through the system by stretching and then returning to size, then the heart has to pump harder to push the blood through the system. Blood pressure is also increased if there's a restricted flow in an area of the body, and that is oftentimes a medical and/or surgical issue. Increased blood volume can also cause increased blood pressure. Blood volume increases are usually due to high salt intake and systemic inflammation, but can also be caused by kidney or liver issues. Why should we worry about high blood pressure? Because in general, more blood pressure in any system usually leads to more problems, right? If you live in the northern United States, then you are familiar with frozen water pipes and the issues are caused when the water expands as it freezes and causes the pipes to break. Too much pressure leads to issues and breakdown. In the case of our body, increased pressure means your heart is working way harder. Our ticker can only do so much. If it has to work harder all the time, then it is going to wear out. They have all sorts of names to diagnose a worn down heart muscle, but heart attack and stroke are the most common issues resulting from high blood pressure. Heart disease has been the #1 cause of death in our country since 1921. Seriously, this is something that we can have a lot of control over, and yet we haven't gotten that message through our thick skull in over 100 years. As I alluded to earlier, your blood pressure is normal for your situation. And the great thing is, many causes of blood pressure issues are situations that we can easily change. So should we just take a medication and move on? No. And why not? We have a system that constantly monitors our blood pressure to make sure every cell is getting its nutrition and oxygen needs met. And we just artificially lower the pressure? Don't you think that maybe the cells will maybe no longer have nutrients and oxygen delivered properly? What are the common side effects from blood pressure medication? Dizziness, fatigue, nausea, headaches. Why those? One reason is because cells aren't getting the proper delivery of nutrients and oxygen. Not to mention, of course, how those chemicals and the medications are interacting in all of the cells of the body. So we start trading one issue for another issue. Sounds familiar, right? When you treat symptoms, you're trying to outsmart the body. And this usually leads to some other breakdown. Did you know blood pressure medication typically lowers blood pressure by 10 to 15 points systolic and 5 to 10 points diastolic? That's not much. They say our blood pressure should be under 120/80. So if you're walking into your physician's office at, say, 150/100, they prescribe you a medication and suddenly you're down to 135/90, maybe, best case scenario. They consider that a win, but yet, are you still in the hypertensive stage? You are. So is it really even a win? And I'm not here today to say just ditch the drugs. That would get me in a lot of trouble. And some people's blood pressure is high enough that those blood vessels are about to burst, or the heart is just about ready to give up. So lowering the blood pressure in any way, even if it's chemically done through medication, very well may be keeping that person alive. But there are better options, much better options. But it requires you to be an active or participant. So let's talk about what you can do. When dialing up some simple online search, it shows the leading cause of high blood pressure are unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, weight, specifically being overweight or obese, substances, mainly tobacco products, but also alcohol consumption, chronic stress, and finally, age and genetics. Since we can't really change age and genetics, these are not going to be discussed today. What the internet did not mention for a cause of high blood pressure, and which we will be discussing in a bit, is the role of the nervous system in our blood pressure. Our diet plays a role in so much of our health. We all know this. I really hope this isn't a profoundly new concept to my listeners. But if it's a new concept for you, then let's get you up to speed. The American diet is crap. There, I said it. It's crap. We eat too many processed foods, and overall, we eat so many foods devoid of any nutritional value. And it's everywhere, advertised everywhere. And let's admit it, most of it tastes good, but it only tastes good because your taste buds have been tricked for many, many years. Salt, sugar, and fat. It is a book. Read it if you want to learn how the food industry learned to manipulate food, specifically processed food, to make you addicted to it. It's both fascinating and scary. So as you start to eat a cleaner diet, you will find that many junk foods just taste odd or artificial. And I won't get too deep into the food category other than what to do to help with blood pressure. Regularly mentioned with blood pressure is salt. And while it is good to avoid too much salt, by simply moving away from processed foods and into more whole foods, you will not have to worry at all about salt intake. Whole foods is what you want to eat. If it doesn't need a label because it's just one ingredient, then that is what you should be eating. Think about walking the perimeter of the grocery store. That's where most of the more healthy foods are. More vegetables and fruits and less oils, dairy, and meat is a simple formula. And I'm not going to say to never eat oils, dairy, and meat. Moderation, right? In America, we have lost that concept. Often referenced to help with high blood pressure is called the DASH diet, D-A-S-H. It focuses on eating whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy. In the diet, they also include lean meat, fish, poultry, nuts, seeds, and legumes. They recommend limiting sodium and foods high in saturated fat and added sugar. But don't make it too complicated at first. Don't get lost in the details and all the complexities. Just start working on improving slowly. Change one meal a week. Replace one less healthy ingredient or food with one that is more healthy. Baby steps. As you start improving, then start to hone in on the tiny details. More veggies, more fruits, less processed foods. That formula will get you pretty far. And since our food is much less nutritious as it once was, supplements can help to bridge that gap. What supplements can help with blood pressure? Magnesium. Magnesium helps relax blood vessels, so blood vessels open up. This can significantly reduce both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Potassium. Potassium helps your body manage sodium levels. It's a key factor in maintaining healthy blood pressure. Coenzyme Q10, sometimes just written as CoQ10, CoQ10, is an antioxidant that supports heart health and has been shown to modestly lower blood pressure. Omega-3 fatty acids, oftentimes sold as just fish oils, are known for reducing inflammation. Omega-3s can provide meaningful blood pressure benefits, and it's great for our brain as well. Garlic and hibiscus, they are herbal alternatives like garlic extract and hibiscus tea. They both have properties that support the health of our arteries and blood flow. But remember, the bigger bang for your buck is changing your diet. Supplements help, but you need to have more of an active role than just taking pills. And remember, high quality supplements. You get what you pay for. Buy from reputable companies. I trust and use Standard Process, but there are other companies out there that are high quality. Do your research. Physical inactivity is also a major contributor to high blood pressure. We need to get moving. How much do we need to move? They say 150 minutes of low intensity or 75 minutes of moderate to high intensity exercise every single week. And the secret is to exercise most days. And you can even break your exercise up into more than one time during a day. And once again, don't get lost in the details. Just get out and get moving. A mix of cardiovascular and strength training. Walk, bike, run, dance. Make it fun. Do something that you enjoy so that you are more likely to stick with it. Strength training is very important as well. You don't need to get a gym membership for strength training. There are plenty of things you can do at home with either no or very limited equipment to get a full body workout. If you use any devices that track your heart rate, then you can get workouts more dialed in. Blood pressure is more affected by cardiovascular exercises that are done in zones 1 and 2, which ranges from about 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. To do the formula for maximum heart rate, you take the number 220, subtract your age, and that gives you your maximum heart rate. The formula is not perfect, but it gets you pretty close. So 50% of your maximum heart rate, just multiply 50% times whatever that number may be. So zone 1 and zone 2 exercises are lower effort exercise. In these zones, you should be able to still hold a conversation. These zones are also great for burning fat, which, as previously mentioned, extra weight can be a contributing factor in high blood pressure. Do searches for body weight home exercises and you'll find many things that can be easily done. And if joining a gym will make you more accountable, then go for it. Accountability is huge. If you lack that self-drive, then talk to a friend or a loved one to get them to join in on your journey. Success rates are much higher for those that join alongside you and are joining in on your journey. So here is something new that I learned in my research. This is really interesting. In a 2023 study, they showed that exercise that had the best effect on blood pressure was what is called isometric exercise. These are exercises where there is no joint movement and they are just a static hold. The exercises the study found to be best at lowering blood pressure, wall sits and planks. If you aren't familiar with a wall sit, is where you start standing with your body up against a wall and then you start to squat down and you're kind of moving your feet away from the wall as you lower yourself. And you want to lower yourself until you are in basically what looks like a seated position. And then you hold it. Now, if you haven't done this before, you are going to be surprised when you start to feel your thighs burn in likely less than 30 seconds. And you just stay there. Your body is fighting gravity for as long as you can do it. Over time, you'll increase the amount of time you can do it, but you might find at first you can only handle 30 to 60 seconds. And planks, if you are unfamiliar, is with you supporting your body with your forearms and your toes as you are kind of laying with your torso hovering above the floor. These exercises have been shown to be very effective at lowering your blood pressure. Obviously, with any change, you need to stick with it for lasting effects, but you don't have to be dripping with sweat in order for exercise to have a positive impact. Of interest, they even found hand exercises where you grip and hold something for a period of time to have some positive effect on blood pressure. And how much can these exercises really help with blood pressure? The isometric exercises reduces systolic blood pressure by 8 to 12 points. That is more than a blood pressure medication. In general, studies show that 150 minutes per week of any exercise can lower systolic blood pressure 4 to 10 points and diastolic blood pressure 3 to 8 points, which is the equivalent of about one blood pressure medication. But you need to be consistent. Exercise most days is key. Exercise, of course, has a myriad of benefits from regulating cholesterol and blood sugar to improve sleep and immune function. You can tune into the 6 Pillars of Health, which is episode number 5, to get more information on exercise. And newsflash, most of the 6 Pillars of Health are going to positively affect blood pressure. Another cause for increased blood pressure is being overweight or obese. Some studies show that over 70% of American adults fall in this category. Increased body size requires more blood vessels to get blood to all the cells of the body. More blood vessels requires more pressure to get the blood through the entire vascular network. On top of that, there's a high correlation between carrying extra weight in both atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis. And I know losing weight is not an easy endeavor. And just like blood pressure, artificially reducing weight through weight loss surgery or medication isn't going to yield the same positive results on blood pressure compared to making changes in diet and exercise. Weight loss isn't as simple as consuming less calories, but that is a good place to start. Nutritionists can be a good team player to assist in helping to choose the right foods and the right times to eat. And athletic trainers can be fantastic to give the advice and best exercises to do, especially if someone may have some limitations. Another cause for high blood pressure is substances such as tobacco and alcohol. Do I really need to tell my intelligent listeners that smoking and drinking alcohol is bad for our body? I think we are all smart enough to know this. And while on the topic, vaping is horrible too. Get off this crap. Maybe I'm a jerk, but there aren't too many people who like to hang with a smoker or heavy drinker. The gig is up. Smoking and drinking aren't cool anymore. This is something that will take a large dose of willpower, but you can give these things up. I believe in you. Okay, I will hop off the substance soapbox. Chronic stress also has a significant impact on blood pressure. The secret is to learn how to manage stress since we cannot always remove all the stressors from our life. Once again, in episode number 5, where I talk about the 6 pillars of health, I talk about stress management. Yoga, deep breathing exercises, meditation, and mindfulness exercises help tremendously to help you to become aware of your body and help you to manage stress. Body awareness is so important. Many people are feeling stressed but aren't even aware of it because they aren't in tune with their own body. We all have a tendency to overreact at times to situations. The tried and true method to count to 10 before reacting is great. So many situations tend to seem like a big deal in the moment, but then when we look back, it doesn't seem like such a big deal again. So sometimes we just need to learn to remain more chill in the moment. Finally, a major player in the control of our blood pressure is our nervous system. And I'd like to touch briefly on the neurology involved and how to correct it through NUCCA care. So back in 2007, a fascinating study was released in the Journal of Human Hypertension. So this is the most prominent journal about hypertension, a journal literally about high blood pressure. In this study, they looked at how NUCCA care changed blood pressure in people with mild hypertension, and the results were unexpected. The study showed that NUCCA care caused a decrease in systolic blood pressure by 17 points and diastolic by 10 points. This is more than what 2 hypertensive medications used together can accomplish, and twice as effective as those isometric exercises. Fascinating, but why and how? As we discussed, the brain is constantly monitoring blood pressure, and we have what's called baroreceptors in our arteries that measure pressure. So inside our arteries, we have pressure sensors. This information is transmitted to the brain, specifically to the part of the brain called the medulla oblongata. The brain uses this information to make changes on the fly to the strength of the heart pumping, the heart rate, and what is called vasodilation. Our arteries are covered in what is called smooth muscle, and by contracting or relaxing that muscle, it can allow a blood vessel to be more or less closed off. Opening and closing the blood vessels is called vasodilation. So when the brain gets messages, it controls all the aspects that can control blood pressure, reacting instantly to the needs of the body. Today's quick anatomy lesson. We have our brain, and then it exits out of the skull and transitions into what is called the brain stem. This area is vitally important at controlling all the important life functions, including posture, breathing, sleep, and the aforementioned heart rate, blood pressure, and dilation of the blood vessels. When there's irritation to this area, it causes a change in the transmission of nerve signals. These changes causes some more obvious things like postural changes. I did a podcast on posture and NUCCA a couple episodes ago, so check it out if you haven't already. If you're just tuning in for the first time and you haven't heard of it yet, to give a very brief overview, NUCCA is a very gentle and extremely precise chiropractic adjustment to the top bone of the neck called the atlas. And so, as I was saying, this change of nerve transmission can also cause changes to blood pressure, vasodilation, and heart rate. This is why precise NUCCA adjustment to the spine can alter, amongst other things, blood pressure. Removing interference allows the nerve transmission to return to normal and therefore allow the body to properly control blood pressure as it was designed. And while NUCCA is a chiropractic technique, this study has tried to be replicated with standard chiropractic techniques with more inconsistent results. In order to see the benefits of the study, you need a very precise NUCCA adjustment. And if a NUCCA doc isn't local to you, you want to seek someone who specializes in upper cervical chiropractic care. Also, in the same area of the brainstem is where the vagus nerve originates. This is the same reason why these same adjustments causes changes with many of the organs of the body, as the vagus nerve controls most of the organs. On episode 9, I discussed the vagus nerve. This nerve also plays a role in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a system that helps to calm our body down. So not only do adjustments to the upper cervical spine allow for more proper regulation of blood pressure, but it also allows the vagus nerve to assist in calming the body down, which can help in our reaction to stress. And as we talked about earlier, stress is also a factor in high blood pressure. So with one adjustment to the upper cervical spine, there are two neurological reasons why blood pressure can be changed. And there are several other neurologic things happening at the same time. However, we won't go too deep into those weeds. NUCCA can cause a large change in blood pressure. I've heard many stories in my office where people have been able to get completely off of hypertensive medications after they get under care. And unfortunately, we do not have data to know long-term how much blood pressure changes. This was simply an 8-week study. It was cost prohibitive for a longer study. However, I would anticipate further drops in blood pressure as time continues. However, most likely those drops will go at a much slower rate. And getting under care isn't a guarantee of lower blood pressure. Remember, your blood pressure is exactly where it should be for you in your current situation. So if the nervous system is working properly, but you still have blockages in major blood vessels, the body will still need higher pressure to shoot the blood to all the destinations. This is why adopting many positive changes can help to build on each other. Improving diet, including supplementation, exercising, not smoking or drinking, stress relief practices, NUCCA care, combined, they all allow the body to function better at multiple levels. Granted, none of these changes are as fast as medications. However, you make these changes and you see longer results. If one were to stop taking blood pressure medication for a week, I imagine we would see the blood pressure creeping back up. The same is not necessarily true if you stop exercising or if you head off on vacation and you eat poorly for a week. In fact, with these suggestions, if done long enough, it is possible to reverse many of the issues that have caused high blood pressure. This is what is amazing about our body. It is self-healing. You give it the right nutrition, ample water, and challenge it with exercise along with proper nervous system function through NUCCA care, and amazing things can happen. You know, that's a take-home message with all of this. We have the power to make changes. And while I will not say that these steps will fix every blood pressure issue out there, I imagine that taking all these steps can at the very least improve almost every situation. You deserve to be healthy and to do it on your own terms. You do not need to be passive. You do not need to be a victim. You have the power to make changes. It's about loving yourself enough to make positive changes in your life. And when you do, your future self will thank you. This is a gentle shift. Health by choice, not by chance. I am Dr. Aaron Kiefer. Be well.